our guest speaker tonight. It's Mark Medrek with DNS.
Right.
Yeah, make you feel good. Hi, I hope you grabbed these two handouts from back there. If you had it, please go grab them.
Okay, thank you.
So one of them is how to navigate the city website, Milwaukee.gov/MyMilwaukeeHome. You can look up any property in the city of Milwaukee, see who owns it, what they paid for it, how much their taxes are, if the taxes are paid, if there's any orders issued against that property, if there were what we used to call complaints, now technically they're called cases, right? Tenants say, hey, I got roaches, I got bed bugs, my doors don't lock, the heater doesn't work. All that stuff will show up there. So before you sign any sort of rental agreement, do your homework, look up the property. So I'm gonna start with this. Does anybody have an address they're curious about? So nobody can blame me for picking on them. And I'll enter it in, we'll take a look and see what the magic computer tells us. This is open to officers as well. You know, if you guys wanna, it's your party. Yes.
1101 West Atkinson.
So, 1101 didn't come up, right? So Milwaukee.gov/MyMilwaukeeHome, one word. There's also a way you can get it from the city homepage. I can show you that too if you want, but for the sake of argument, Atkinson. Hit submit address. Boom. It's owned by Daryl C. Nicholson, according to our records. Hi. How are you? Do we want to look at the assessment details of the property's worth, if the taxes are paid? Or do we want to dive right into the sexy stuff with people that have complaints?
Whatever.
Okay. Well, just quickly, for the purpose of instruction, if we click on this, boom. Here's the owner, there's the location, there's the tax key. We're going to click on that in just a second. But it tells us it's a home that was built in 1926. It's a multi-story building, story and offices, so it's a commercial building. It's worth 171. It's assessed at 171,600 now. But it looks like they bought it for 49,200. 25 years ago. That's appreciation and value. Huh? If I click on this tax key, it takes me to a pretty page like this. So what I did there, right? I'm going to go back just for the sake of instruction, because then when you go home and try this, and that's the best way to do this, to just go on your computer. On a smartphone, it still works, but it looks a little different. It really works better on a laptop or on a desktop computer. And then just look up somebody's address that you know, your house, right? And dig around. If I click on this tax key here, it takes me to this page here. Has all kinds of information. Tells me how many bedrooms and how many units inside there. Well, it's supposed to. At least we know there's one kitchen. Tells me about the exterior, what sort of exterior it has. Brick, grade of average, right? Back to the home. Oops, oops, oops.
Mark, where we find square footage, because once you guys changed it, they took that
From
away.
this, yeah.
Boom. That's all I have to say is boom.
It will tell you how many rooms there are. If you look here, see in that,
Yep.
in all this text here?
Yes.
It tells you how many bathrooms, how many rooms and stuff, but it doesn't have the square footage breakdown like it used to, unfortunately. That's the price of progress, I'm afraid, right? You gotta give a little to get a little. But notice this, previous assessments. Whoa, I can look at all the previous assessments. Son of a gun. But hang on, that's not all. If you add now. Sale over history. What? Yeah, I can look at all the people that previously owned this place. That's kind of nice to know, huh? stinking permits, right? Anybody want to guess what the number one reason that mom and pop landlords end up in court with DNS has to do with? Number one, number two isn't even close. Mom and pop landlords, the one that own a duplex and maybe a single
They
family.
fix something without asking permission?
Permits are required, and they just, I don't need no permit, I'm gonna do the plumbing, I'm gonna do the electrical, I'm gonna put in the hot water heater, I'm gonna replace the sink. I'm gonna just do it myself because I'm the landlord and that's my birthright. If it needs a permit, it needs a permit.
Excuse me.
Yes.
How do you find out, what is required?
I'm so glad you asked that. If you go to the Milwaukee.gov homepage, so Milwaukee.gov/home, there is a longer address, but the easiest way is to go to the Milwaukee.gov homepage, scroll down a little bit. On the left side, there's going to be a hot topics menu. There's going to be a list of things, and then there's going to be the find it fast group of things. There's going to be a list of things like the city tax foreclosure. It's going to be city real estate, job opportunities. If you click on the plus sign, it says see more. It'll drop down more of a menu. There's a link that'll be called licenses and permits. If you click on that, there will be a long list of things that yes. Am I going too fast? From the city homepage, if you look for licenses and permits.
Do you want me to pull it up while you go through it?
If you'd like. You go to licenses and permits, and there'll be a long list of things that yes, no, or maybe need a permit. And there'll be a phone number. So if you have questions, you can call. Now, if you own your own house, right, or you're the landlord, I live in my own duplex. I live on the second story. I replaced my rear airing porch because I'm a former carpenter, and it's the unit where I live, right? So I pulled my permit, I rebuilt it, that's cool. But when it comes to like electricity and plumbing, if you are not a licensed plumber or electrician, and you have to be certified in Milwaukee, then you can pull your own permits to do electricity and plumbing on your rental property. Otherwise, and how many of us know landlords that just do their own, they're not plumbers or electricians by a mile, right? But they do their own plumbing and electricity because, well, this is my house, right?
So this find it fast that you're talking about?
Yes, click on see more. Thank you very much. Look at this guy. Property data is the same thing as what we're just looking at. But if you go to licenses and permits, that will take you to a list of things that yes, no, or maybe need a permit. Now, I mentioned if you own your own house, if you're just replacing handrails on your porch, or if you're replacing treads, you know, the part on the step that you step on, or the risers, the vertical part, so your foot doesn't go through, that you don't need a permit for, or the floorboards. But if you are cutting new stringers, if you're making a whole new set of stairs, or even if you're buying them from Menards and installing them, that needs a permit, because those have to be right. Because people are used to walking up steps that are built to code, so we become conditioned after all these years. We know how much to lift our foot, and if the steps are off, that's when people trip and fall. That's where it comes from. That I want to retire someday, so the more money we can get from things like permits and whatnot, the more I benefit. But don't tell people. It's off the record. Take a look at that. Shingles doesn't need a permit. Asbestos abatement in a single family or a duplex, you don't need a permit for that. But there is a phone number to call that I recommend you call that gives some good advice, so you or somebody else doesn't get affected. But single family or duplex, technically you don't need a permit to do asbestos abatement in single or duplex. Does it need a permit? No. You thought I was lying. That part of my life is over, guys. I've changed. Okay, this is the new and improved me. Awesome. Any other questions, or should I go back to what we were looking at? Oh, you guys all went to public school, right? We don't answer questions unless we're directly called on, right? I get it. I get it.
Some of us use this a lot. It's good for your time. Can we demand square footage and
So, I can tell you what a P.5 is, but let's take a look at it. Public Works, that's what that is. Yeah. So, that's a DPW thing. No telling what that is. wait a minute, like if I click on this record info, you guys see what I just did there? It doesn't appear unless you click on this upside down triangle, which is on your handout, right? Shows you how to do that. Now I can look at attachments if there's an order there, or I can look at record details. And it's gonna tell me stuff. Well, it's David Gonzalez's house, we saw that before already. See if there's any attachments. Sometimes there will either be orders. If it's a file where this one has PWEC, see this up here? Record PWEC 24. If that started with ORD, that would be an order. You could download, the order would appear here. You could click on it and it would download to your computer. So before you go buy that house, if there are active orders on a property and then you buy the property, guess who inherits those orders? We're gonna say, oh, new owner. We put the old ones away and we send the orders to you, the new owner. Just FYI. Just throwing it out there to say on the south side. Any other questions? ENF, zoning violation, right? Project name, zoning violation. ENF means enforcement, so code enforcement. City inspectors, right? Electrical inspector, plumbing inspector, residential inspector, commercial inspector. ORD, this means it was an order. Let's take a look, see what it has. Remember, it won't show unless I click on this record info diamond here. Let's take a look at the attachments. And boom, lo and behold, violation order. I click on that, download, local file, Cowabunga. Right? So if you enter a complaint with the city that, hey, there's this and that going on at that property, you can follow what happens online. If somebody's gone out there, it'll show. And if they go out there and they say no violation found, somebody disagreed with your assessment of there being something wrong with that property. Make sense? Is everybody happy? I think we need to turn down the heat. It's a little too warm and comfortable in here. You guys would like chilling. All right? I get it.
I have a question, sir.
I have an answer. You call me, Mark. We go way back, right?
If an inspector goes out and you don't agree with his or her assessment, can you go over their head?
You may. Just be prepared. Not everything that annoys people is a violation. I especially say that because tenants, oftentimes, especially when they're behind on rent, they're bothered by everything. And yeah, sometimes things are legitimate, but not everything that annoys a tenant is necessarily incumbent upon the landlord to spend time or money fixing. You know what I mean? Some things are just like, well, you would prefer it different, but the landlord is not bound by any building or municipal code to change it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. I was trying to be impolite. I was saying that, you know, not everything that bugs people is something that we can enforce. It has to be in writing that this is the requirements. So I see Adam Carnes is the inspector. He went out there. Provide access for a cross-connection survey. In other words, is the plumbing crisscrossed? Is there fresh water mixing with not fresh water? Right? Or does somebody have a garden hose sticking into the swimming pool? Right? So the water could get sucked back into the system. That's a thing. But just trying to show you that you can follow the details once you enter information. Now I see these are two inspection reports. These are two different orders, right? But there might also be pictures, which is really helpful. If somebody says, hey, you've got some defective siding on the east side of your garage. Well, I don't see any defective siding. They might have a picture. This is what I'm talking about. Questions? Is everybody happy? Okay. I'm not going to wait for them to be happy. You know, and if I wait for them to be happy, we could be here, right? Okay. Something else I wanted to show you guys. What was it? Oh, property value. I already showed you this. Permits, sale owner history, previous assessment. This is all helpful information. You can see that the property contains 0.09, not even a tenth of an acre That's a small lot. Multi-story store building, built about 1926. Brick exterior. All right, there's the neighborhood, blah, blah, blah. Does everybody feel like they have a decent understanding of how this works? Again, the only way to really learn how to use this effectively is to just follow my little step-by-step and then enter an address like you came up with one. Enter an address that you're aware of and then swim around. Now I'd like to take a look at this here thing, rent withholding, rent abatement. How many landlords and or tenants in here? Excellent. The other piece of paper. So, put together a little what it is and what it isn't. Because there's a lot of misinformation. What do tenants do when they get angry at their landlord? Stop paying rent, right? Now you are evictable in Wisconsin. There are rules. Yes, there is such a thing as rent withholding, but the process is an inspector comes out, verifies that indeed there are violations of building codes or municipal codes or otherwise. They issue orders, they give you a reasonable amount of time based on the severity level. Obviously, no heat in January in Wisconsin, that's an emergency, right? A couple of missing shingles on your garage in December is not the same level of emergency. We're probably going to give you until the end of May to fix that, because it's not so easy or safe to go up and repair a roof in Wisconsin in January. So just be aware. After that time expires, when an inspector gets out there to re-inspect, if there are violations that remain, tenants will be given rent withholding forms. Any violation with the exception of exterior paint. All right? Any violation with the exception of exterior paint, tenant is eligible for rent withholding. If they have a broken cabinet door in the kitchen, if they have a hole in the carpet, if the door handle on the bathroom door was broken and hasn't been fixed. Any of that stuff qualifies with the exception of exterior paint. Rent withholding, as you can see here, what it is, orders are issued, it encourages repair. Tenants still have to pay their entire rent on time, in full. They're just not paying it to the landlord anymore. Not until that landlord gets on his or her horsey and goes over there and fixes those violations. The city's gonna sit on that money until the landlord fixes all that stuff, and then it gets re-inspected. I will tell you, tenants can still be evicted while they're on rent withholding, because the landlord can go online and take a look, the same way I showed you. If they have a file that ends in RW for rent withholding, landlord can go there and see how much the tenant paid in rent, because they're paying it to the city, not them. They can go see how much the tenant paid in rent and when it was registered as being paid. If they're late, if it's the second or third of the month and the rent isn't paid, landlord can still give a 5-day notice, even though they're not collecting the rent. How many of you do that? Welcome, huh? I do weddings, parties, bar mitzvahs, birthdays. You can rent me out like, like a bouncy house. So, rent withholding is and does. Just want to point this out. Here's what rent withholding is and does. Here's what it does not. It doesn't protect the tenant from late fees. Those are still in force. The landlord goes online and sees that the tenant didn't pay. That's a thing, right? It's not permanent. If and when the landlord fixes the violations and the inspector comes out and fixes them, re-inspects them, if those orders get what we call abated, that means they are satisfied. We let you know where you were lacking or slacking, however you want to look at it, and now you've fixed it and we've verified it with our own eyeballs. Okay, this order is abated. Now the tenant's going to be responsible to start paying their rent back to the landlord again. Just so you know, the landlord may use those funds to pay for contractors and materials. They can't put it in their pocket, but if they show up at, 841 North Broadway with an invoice, here's all the lumber that I bought to fix the porch that needed new decking and whatnot. If they can prove to us that they're spending money on what we told them to spend money on in the first place, but they failed, the city will disperse money out from that rent withholding pot. Now we're going to charge a fee, I think it's $30 to open the account. We're going to charge, I think, $30 every month that it's active, and then it's another $30 to close the account. The city doesn't work for free, but nothing gets the landlord's attention like not getting their money, let me tell you. Rent abatement. Rent abatement is community
alongside DNS, if, let's say there's a leaky roof, and when it rains, water comes in and it soaks the carpet in one of the bedrooms and in the living room. There's a law, I can provide it for anybody that might want it. I have a copy from Community Advocates, it's not top secret. But they have a certain percentage, sometimes there's a range, but they can lower the tenant's rent and it never has to be paid back. They can lower the tenant's rent by X percentage based on how many active violations were addressed, that were ordered to be repaired and not repaired in the time frame that the landlord was given. Does that make sense? City issues an order. Now, like I said, no heat, that's gonna be like a 4-day, 5-day order, right? That roof might be 3 months, but after the 3 months is up, the inspector goes out there and re-inspects. Hey, if that roof is still leaking, community advocates can say, hey, we're gonna lower your rent by 10% for each room that gets its carpet soaked when it rains, so 20%. Not having a gas cap, let's say there's one of those gas lines in the kitchen for a gas stove, but let's say the tenant has an electric stove, but there's no cap on that gas line, 3% discount on their rent until the landlord goes to the hardware store and buys one of those little caps. Right? They have, like I said, there's a long list of violations and it says exactly how much they can lower the rent by. That's what rent abatement is. See the difference? Rent withholding, tenant pays all of it to the city. Rent abatement is a discount that never has to be paid back because it, quote, materially affects, end of quote, the quality of life for the tenant. Landlords are going to push back and say, hey, it's not that big of a deal that the roof is leaking, but a judge is going to say you're wrong. Because landlords are going to push back on everything. Hello? Hello? Right? Just know that if they can't prove an argument that materially affects the quality of life for that tenant. In other words, if there's a missing piece of siding on the garage, they're not going to get rent abatement for that. Maybe rent withholding. I'm trying to draw a distinction because people get these mixed up. Does that make sense? Alright. Now let's look at this page here. I'm not even going to touch on mediation unless you guys want me to. But here, before I confuse everybody, here's another rent withholding, rent abatement timeline, how it works, right? The city comes out and issues an order. If that order is complied with in the time frame that they were given, if the inspector comes out and says, everything's good, order is abated, tenant has no option for rent withholding. If the landlord does his or her their job, the tenant does not have the option of rent withholding. They must pay their rent on time and full to the landlord. That make sense? Okay. I'm not going to walk you through it. I just wanted to describe it. Please notice rent abatement is where there's a discount on the rent based on conditions at the property, quote unquote, materially affecting the quality of life of the tenant and the quote. Yes?
So you have quality of life, but what if it's dangerous? So,
That qualifies that.
I mean, but what if it's like an immediate danger? Is there a step up? Because 4 or 5 days is still a long time.
That's a great question.
Immediate, like carbon monoxide or no heat,
Gas leak.
0, or I don't know, scary stuff.
Can't lock the back door, so unsecured buildings. I agree. Those are emergency orders.
Okay.
Here's the bad news on that. DNS comes out and we issue an emergency order. Hey, you have 3 days to fix this back door that won't close, won't lock, because that's a security issue. Anybody can walk in whenever they want to. We're going to give you 3 days to fix it. Landlord doesn't fix it. After the inspector comes out, probably on day 4 or 5, they're going to re-inspect, and they're going to say, hey, you guys have to get out of here. We call community advocates. They'll try and find a place for the tenant to go, and then we come with the green boards and the screws, right? You guys have all seen that? Where houses get boarded up by the city. That's how that works.
What are examples of emergency orders besides like carbon, like heat?
Sewage back up, no water, no electricity, unsafe electricity. One of the saddest placards, that's what you guys ever seen where there's a house that's closed down by the city, green boards, and then there's a bright orange, it says notice, and then there'll be a set of orders glued on with that. Saddest one of those I ever had to do. Young couple, the guy was like 21, his wife was about 20, they had 2 beautiful little kids, living the American dream, renting from the woman's uncle. Went down there, I forget what the reason was I was at the property, but I noticed when I was in the basement that the beam holding up the house was severed all the way through in 3 different spots. That's a nightmare waiting to happen, right? So I issued an emergency order. Uncle didn't move on it. They had to move. Now it's a grassy field. That's another example. Sewage, no electricity, no heat, scary electricity structure, right? Yes.
Regarding the amendment, I want to make sure I understand this.
Awesome. I appreciate your question.
Reduction in the rent, but once the landlord does his or her part, I'm assuming the rent goes back to the
Correct.
original? Okay.
Correct. Anybody want to guess what the citation amount is if a landlord has a tenant on rent withholding? And the landlord says, hey, Brandon, I've got a couple of my friends. Hey man, you're not happy here, are you? I mean, we're on a month-to-month, you just move if you want to. It's called coercion. Anybody want to guess what the citation is for me trying to encourage my tenant on rent withholding to move?
1,000?
1,197. Close to 2, right? Well, not close to 2, but close to 12. Yeah, same thing. If a tenant's on rent withholding, rent abatement, and the landlord goes and repairs stuff, and the tenant goes behind and destroys what the landlord fixed, same thing. Now it's 1197 citation on the tenant. Yeah. I'm gonna bring coffee with me next time. I'm just bring a thermos and make sure everybody gets a little bit of coffee. Maybe do some jumping jacks, jumping jacks, some toe touches, a little bit of hay, right? Any more questions? Okay, I don't want to take up too much time, right?
One more thing. Can you go back to the
Say
address?
like, come on.
Yeah, one more thing. Can you go back to the address screen and show them how to look up the owner information?
Absolutely.
Because sometimes it's an LLC compared to the contact person at
Boom. I agree. Property data, right there. Now you can do, I gave you the address on there. It's milwaukee.gov/mymilwaukee-home. Or from the city homepage, right here. See this property data? Same exact thing. It takes you to the same exact website. We want to enter an address?
Let's go,
I don't want to be bad. I don't want
yeah,
some poor victimized landlord to say I'm picking up.
634 West North Avenue.
Clearview Properties. Now. See the city assessor's details. Clearview Properties LLC. Now they're gonna have to have a registered agent. Don't know that that is a requirement that they have to
They just have to have a
on the
mailing
website.
address, right? That's the only thing that's
Well,
required by state law?
Six county area, there has to be, yes. It used to be that you had to have a human being with a phone number and an address. And now it's just you need to have an agent within 6 county areas. There is a website, and I don't know it by heart anymore because I've been out of the inspector business for a long time. But there is a website that the state of Wisconsin maintains that every LLC has to have a registered agent. I apologize, I don't have that address for you. Are you guys familiar with what I'm talking about? Wisconsin State.
Sure.
Can I share that information with you guys and maybe provide it next month if people still remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that works.
I feel like it's very good. I don't have that information, but the state of Wisconsin does maintain every LLC has to have some sort of registered agent that can be contacted. I'm afraid this one's not working. Any other questions about this property? Now we could kind of come in the back door. If I go to this property, I see Clearview Properties LLC, it's on Jefferson downtown here. But if I were to go back to the if I were to go back to my list of orders against this property.
One-stop.wi.gov for the LLC search.
Okay, thank you.
So if I go here, and this looks like the thing that I gave you, right? The handout that I gave you. Code violations and permits, see details. If I click on that, if there's an order here, I see they grabbed a permit to do some HVAC work. But if we can find an order, I'll click on it. Here you go. Part of the process of issuing an official order, that inspector is going to have to look up who the registered agent is. And if there isn't one to be found, then we go after them on that and hold their feet to the fire and make them provide a registered agent that we can talk to. Am I going too fast? Am I not going fast enough? So, pump was leaking at the connections, maintenance is needed. But let's take a look. Here's the department copy. But if I scroll down here, okay, Adrian Gibbs issued this. Clearview Properties on Jefferson Street. Ah, now we have a human being. See what I'm talking about? And, yeah, and label. You guys see what I'm talking about here? Now we have a human being with a name and another address. Right? And the search begins. Yes.
This website says Douglas Law. I looked it up to see.
To put me on the spot.
No,
That's
I was
fine.
curious. I didn't know that existed.
I want to be friends
I was
with you.
excited.
Who's looking on Facebook? Kidding. Any other questions? How am I doing on time? Let the tap dance, please. Say,
How do you get a bus off of the property?
a bus.
Yeah.
School bus.
Old,
Parked
big
on a
bus.
residential property.
It's on a city-owned lot. It's been there for maybe 2 years.
That's simple.
No, officers have tried, it's still there.
La la la.
Okay.
Yeah. DNS can make it go away. If it's a city-owned property, there's no business a bus being parked on there. If you enter a complaint, it
They're
seems
not
like
that-
seems like the perfect time. Squeak you against the oil. Keep doing it.
You remember the address?
They gave it to me several times. Please, like, I know
Let me see if I
I
have.
appreciate you bringing real world drama to this, though.
Oh,
'cause
I
it's-
got
right?
it before you, I just don't wanna,
You're not
It's
the
on
first woman to tell me
It's on
that.
the 3200 block of North 24th Street. I can tell you that. It's on the 3200 block of North 24th Street. I do know that Officer Caldwell and Officer Terrell had worked on it in the past.
Well, we can go to Google Maps and look it up, but I don't know what the house looks like.
There is no house there, it's vacant.
What's a vacant lot? Or property?
The
3200.
alley stay nasty, so. The alley is awful.
3200 North.
24th Street, yeah. 23rd, I'm sorry, 23rd Street. 3200 North 23rd Street, the bus is on 23rd.
I still like it. Maybe a little bit less, but. Florida, all right. Let's try Milwaukee. Try Milwaukee.
Do you have to put RD instead of TH?
Sticky space button. Okay, let's see what Google Maps gives us. 3200 North 23rd. 23rd. Ah, gotcha. Now what you're saying makes sense.
And Main Street, no, it doesn't make a difference.
It should.
So I'm checking Google Maps right now, and the last time they did a street view there was 4 years ago. So
You on Google Earth?
But you should be able to zoom in from there, try zooming in from there, on that map that you have. You're on the right block.
23rd, 24th.
Yeah, it's right behind Movie Park. It's good.
So let's click on that.
And it's going towards Howard, yeah.
So,
Go down,
talk,
across the street.
so do a 180 180?
Go, yeah, do a 180. Now you have to go,
To the right?
Say, yeah, to the right.
To the right, to the right.
Watch out now, y'all, yeah.
On the block, right?
Keep on, yeah. I think it's on the other side of that house that you're looking at, or down there by that next car.
Yeah, it looks like there's a lot there.
Yeah, there's a couple of lots there.
Come on, computer, work with me. Is this the lot right here?
No, it's the next lot.
Okay. All right, Chihuahua.
There's one more.
Can't you pull up the whole block on the city site, like, and then, I thought you needed like the whole block and like that each property with the address.
I'm not sure, like where it would actually show each.
Yeah.
resident.
Yeah, what is that?
Now try to.
It's like the mapping thing or something.
Trying to get this side of the block. Right, this yard here?
Yeah, yeah, should be.
Look familiar? I think I'm on 23rd Street.
Yeah, you have to probably keep going down, unless it's, like you said, if that was 4 years ago, it might be right there.
Yeah, it says it's 2014, so that's 10 years ago.
Yeah, so it might
Oh,
be
jeez.
right there in between those two houses, cause all of those houses going to the right are, I don't even know if they're livable.
Yeah, this is Bing, not, Google either. How am I doing on time? Okay, then I'm gonna go to Google real quick, and we'll find it on Google Maps, it'll be a better quality experience. Disclaimer, I do not work for Google, I have no family members that work for Google. Just saying. Explore Google Earth. Just trying to Google.
I think if you're on Google Earth and you hit new, it'll zoom all the way in, I think. I've used Google Earth.
I never used Google Earth, but I use Google Maps.
Like it asks for an address kind of thing.
I didn't see that, did you?
There was a new on the left.
So I want to launch Earth.
I don't know, I never used.
That's try. Okay. New? Try
See
new.
what that does.
See if it'll let me know.
There's a place where you can enter the search Google Earth right above it in the address.
Ah, there it
It'll
is.
zoom in.
Okay. I couldn't see it. Address again, please?
It's 9200. Or 23rd Street.
Yeah. Street level.
Going the wrong way. Come down. There's the street, I ain't gotta go up.
You ready to know how I get down to street level?
Keep on. I mean, you might be able to see the bus on the side of the house.
So we get blurry.
You get closer.
Earth is cool.
Zoom out a little bit.
I gotta go take some classes.
There it is.
That's the bus we're talking about?
Yeah.
You don't like that?
I don't care. I don't live on that side of the street, but I mean, it's been there, it's toxic, I'm sure.
I bet you could get $700 a month to rent
I
that
don't
place out.
know who's, there may be somebody living in there. I have no idea. I don't know, you know, so might have squatters' rights. I couldn't tell you. Windows may be busted out. I don't want a child to get snatched and dragged in there. I don't want any illicit activity to occur. But it's been there for a while, and I think they said the challenge was how would they get a tow truck or something in there to get the bus out?
How to get in?
It doesn't pass the smell test. I would think that they could just snatch that thing up and move it out of there. I do know that on residential property, to have a vehicle towed, typically you have to put a notice on there and give them 2 days. That's something that MPD does. I don't know if it's, you know, like if there's no license plates and it doesn't move, to us, that's considered a nuisance vehicle, then we can put a sticker on it. But otherwise, that's typically an MPD thing.
MPD
No.
went out there, the bus is still there. They tried. So
I-
I'm saying, I don't know if they went to DNS and passed it on.
I'm not trying to.
I was at that address. I do remember that bus, and I know that DNS wrote orders to have that bus removed, but that's still there?
Yeah,
Okay, I'll let the inspector that wrote the orders know that it's still out there.
and that's the city on lot, right? The side
Not where the
area?
not where the bus is.
Looked like it was right next to the house. If I could
Yes.
get the address, we could look it up ourselves and see what
Yeah, I
DNS
don't
said
know.
it is. But I can't find how to get out of this top-down view. Anybody got any help?
Well, there's the plus and minus on the bottom right.
Yeah, it just zooms me in and out, but.
So
Normally,
I have the address.
Do you?
Yep.
Because if I click on this, normally when I'm at my computer at work, it'll tell me when I click on the house itself, it'll show me what the address number
What
is.
software? In your software?
Just in Google.
Okay, maps.
Yeah,
Not they're different.
this is true. You kids and your technology, you know, I mean, I remember Apple IIe is what I learned at Tech, you know what I mean? Commodore 64, right? Hello.
So there used to be a city-owned site, a sign in the back that said private property, city-owned property or whatever. So you're saying that that may or may not be city-owned property?
Yeah, that's city sign.
I could look it up on my Milwaukee home and it would tell us if I knew the address.
You have the address, Chris?
But I don't.
I do.
see-
Yeah, so Chris has the
Chris
address.
has,
I've got the address.
Well, let's do this. My Milwaukee home, boom.
It's gonna be 3229 North 23rd Street.
Shanice K. Pierce.
Does it show if it's a vacant lot?
It won't here, but if you look at assessor details, it will. Residential OS, it says residential.
How many houses does she own? 3229 or
It
3235?
says 5 bedrooms and 2 baths. That
So
might
that-
be one of those $2 side lots, right? Like if you get to buy the side lot for $1 or $2 or whatever, that might be why it's that long address. Because I see it's six lots there.
That is it. That vacant lot, when you look at it in Google Maps, does have the 3220. Was it 3235? Yeah.
229, 235,
Yeah.
Let's take a look and see what we can find. Where do I get to that? Let's go back here, see what it says for violations and all that. Citation, violation, litigated non-compliance. I see 2 citations. Yeah. discontinue parking on unpaved or properly paved. So we've been citing that.
Good.
When I say up,
I see there's two of them.
How long ago was that?
This says citation date was November 8th of 23, but there was two, remember? So let's take a look at the other one. No, other one's here.
I can let the lady know that there's one time.
You were right, yeah, there you go.
Written for attachments. Let's see the other citation.
and Mark, does it say how much the citation was?
It would.
250.
Oh, so that's
Big money.
not much.
He said it's 250 in the letter.
I didn't notice that. I was looking. Oh, total deposit of 50, yeah. I can tell you that the number goes up as time goes on. As non-compliance wears on. We try and get their attention.
Now, is there a court date that she has to appear to, and then if she misses the court date, what happens after that?
This is October 31st. Yeah, citation does require somebody to show up in court.
I'm saying till February 8th,
Look at
or
this.
just a little bit.
Yeah, citation date,
Go down.
November 8th.
Go down a little bit. It says something about till February 8th. Keep on. Right there, what does that say? The citation has been issued to.
Oh, yeah.
So that was that.
It goes all the way, yeah, no, first we issue an order, and then if you don't comply with it, we can either send you to court, or we can just start issuing citations like every 2 weeks.
So this was issued on February 8th, and the letter just went out November 8th?
The order goes in order issued first. The DNS, we try to be gentlemen, right? Hey, there's a vehicle on your property, parked on your property or unpaved surface. We're gonna give you X amount of time to get it right. Week, 2 weeks. If you don't, then we can either send you to court or start issuing citations, multiple citations with the same order until whoever owns that property complies with the order.
Okay. So this is February 8th, 2023, that was a whole year ago.
Right.
And the bus is still there. And I'm saying, this was issued on the 8th, and then the letter didn't come out till
October.
November, yeah. And I understand that you were a gentleman, y'all had for a whole year almost, but bus is still there. So I'll just let my resident, my tenant, not my tenant, my resident know.
I can just tell you, squeaky wheel gets the oil. We are short lots of inspectors. If you haven't been to the city website for how much. I know that in the residential inspector pool, they are short 2 inspectors. So that means the rest of the 25 or whatever need to pick up for those. And of the inspectors that we do have, half of them have less than 2 years of experience. So that's a factor. Special enforcement, which Bob Lannon is a special enforcement supervisor. They're missing their short inspectors too. And it starts out at like 60 grand. If you're interested, you want, I'll get you an application. No.
Thank you. Well,
You're
this like
welcome.
something is going, I can let her know that something is going on. Cause that whole end of the block down there is just utter, absolute trash, and literally.
Don't tell them I said so, but squeaky wheel gets the oil. Just keep calling. That's, you know,
Stay away from my door.
savage. Yes, sir.
Say I'm compliant, I mean, you can't be checking all these code violations, I mean, there's some kind of like alarm system that, okay, we gave them 3 days, so 3 days later, something pops up on our.
The inspectors have their own, yeah. They can look, and their supervisors run reports. How many your inspector beat, right? How many overdue orders do you have? How long are they overdue? Are they 2 weeks, 2 months, right? They try and keep up with that. I can just tell you it's kind of competitive because they're short inspectors. And the nice thing about this new web environment that we have is you guys can see everything we do, right? But it also takes a lot longer to enter that information. Back in the old days, we had a system called NIS. When I was an inspector, back when it was a real business, it was a lot more streamlined, but you guys couldn't see what we were doing. You would have to call, or you'd have to come in and ask us to show you.
right? So it's a give a little, get a little kind of thing. Right now, it's all transparent, but it takes longer for the inspectors to do what they do, to enter in all this stuff. Yes, sir.
And this only two properties with addresses, right? I mean, can it do lots or not?
Well, absolutely, because the lot's gonna have an address too.
Well, how do you know what the address is, if it's a lot?
Go to the next nearest property, and then on my Milwaukee home, if it's on the even side of the street, just keep going up to it.
Oh, it's so.
And then it'll show up as a lot.
Isn't there somewhere, it used to be, somewhere along the system where you can do like an address range and all the addresses?
Absolutely.
32,
Absolutely.
0
Okay.
to 92, and then you can get all the addresses on the lot?
You know what, from our side, we can do that. I'm not sure from this my Milwaukee home, this is the public side.
I don't know if it changed, you used to could.
That was before it switched to this.
Well, let me see if I can enter 3229 through 3243.
No, I don't think it was in this part. No, there was like 8 different pages, I almost feel like. It's been a few years, I can't even
Yeah.
remember, but it used to have a range of square footage, it was a little different.
You sure that's not map Milwaukee?
No, it was one you could
Plug in, it looked similar to
The
this.
organizer for Sherman Park, and so it was
I remember you.
something like that.
I mean, just because you don't remember me, it's like Mabel. Go ahead.
You
Tell her-
slimmed
tell her I said that.
down,
Tell her I
you
said
slimmed
that.
down from last year.
Wow.
You did,
Wow.
you was last
Very
year.
nice,
Very
Mark.
nice, Mark.
Very nice.
That's a nice way of saying you used to be fat, right? You guys hear what I just
You
did?
can still be fat, but you slimmed down.
Well, I'm glad I came here tonight. It's been great. Anything else I can do?
No, thank you. I can at least, I can let the people know that this will work on it. We'll get
Fantastic.
our new automakers inducted or
Am I
whatever.
free to go? This is my community service. Can I get parole now?
Years ago, I was watching my dog, go out along Cornell Street, and there's this field, sidewalk, there was a burned out car. And I said, I better let the police know, because the kids could come over here and play around
Right.
in there or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I think, either they called me or I called back, and they said, well, we can't do anything about it because it's private property. It's like a field. So, what happened there, they have to send, I mean, the notice to all that.
Then, DNS can do something about that. We can go out and take a look, issue an order, hey, you gotta give me X amount of
And this was
time.
like 7 years ago.
But that's definitely a nuisance. If the car doesn't drive, if it's not drivable and doesn't have license plates, that's a nuisance vehicle. We can issue orders immediately, give you a couple of days. If you don't get that out, we'll have it towed.
So if they someone else property, they don't even know, I mean, it's like a lot, they don't even know that that stuff is there until they get a notice. So
Well,
then they're still responsible.
like I mentioned, part of the process of issuing an order is, whether it's an LLC or an out-of-state order or whatever, part of the process for the inspector issuing the order is we have certain channels that we check to find out who the owner is. So then we have the person who is listed as the owner, because the onus is on the owner to say, hey, here's where I'm at, if you need to reach me. Then if it ends up in court, then it's on them. Okay, you need to become more transparent. Let's know how to get a hold of it. How do you do it?
Thank you so much, Mark.
No offense, I'm gonna go home.
All right, have
It's been a long day for me.
she would like a card. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm not even mad. A little bit.
So I can guarantee you that my presentation will not be as good as Mark's. All right, here we go. All right, so let's talk about crime
Wait.
in District 5. So we have a new format for the last several months because we are working with analysts from OMAP, which is not at District 5, they're located downtown. So they provide us with better data and also better quality so that we can present this information to you properly. So the first grid, this is the March and February comparison. The second grid right here, this is the 2023 year-to-date information and the 2024 year-to-date information. And due to time constraints, it's going to focus on the 2023 and 2024 year-to-date information. So for our homicides, last year about this time we had 8 homicides. that went from January 1st to March 31st of 2023. This year we have 4. Last year we had 20 sexual assaults and rapes. This year we have 22. So we have 2 more, so that's a 10% increase. Now what I can say is, based upon the information that I have, most of those sexual assaults and rapes are people that know one another. It's either maybe a girlfriend or a mother's boyfriend, a cousin, a relative, something along those lines, and not necessarily the stranger sexual assaults. Robberies, last year we had 74. Year to date this year, March 31st, we are down 20%, we had 59. So it's still important that people are still out there looking for easy opportunities. They're looking for easy licks. People that are not paying attention, people who are maybe on their cell phones, or maybe they're walking down the street, or maybe they're walking into their houses, and people are just creeping up on the come up. So just be aware of your surroundings and pay attention to your surroundings. Aggravated assaults, 314 last year compared to 276 this year. And so our aggravated assaults, these are the incidents where we have those fights where somebody has a broken bone, broken tooth. We also have those incidents where somebody is also shot at. We have the incidents where a house is shot into. These are significant incidents. So right now we're down about 12%. Human trafficking, last year around this time we had 0. This year we are at 1. I always say that human trafficking is always more. This is only what has been reported to us. So if you see some suspicious activity, some people frequenting a house or something like that, let us know so that we can investigate. Total violent crime for our year-to-date last year, 2023, was 416. This year we are at 362, and that's a 13% decrease. Our burglaries, last year we had 80, this year we're at 83, so that's a 4% increase. Now, I like to be honest with you all because I consider you to be family, okay? So we have arrested multiple people, multiple times for multiple burglaries. We had a string of burglaries in our business area along like some of the restaurants. We've had some residential burglaries, etc. We arrest individuals, they get out the next 2 days because they have either no bail, a low bail, and they're released back out into society, and the next day or 2 days later we arrest them again for another burglary. We have an individual right now who has been arrested for burglary, or actually she's been convicted of 8 burglaries within maybe 4 months. So she has 2023 convictions and 2024 convictions, and she has, I believe she may have had like $100 cash bail. And so back out on the street, missing court dates, etc. So just keep in mind, the officers are arresting folks in the act of burglary. However, some of these individuals are released because it's not considered a violent crime. So if there is an attack that takes place inside the residence, then that answer that will cause the judge, to issue a higher cash bail. Or higher cash bail. Thefts, last year we had 267. This year we're at 223, so we have a 16% decrease. Auto thefts, 172. Last year, this year we're at 159, so we also have an 8% decrease there. So our arsons, last year we had 8, right now we're at 9, and that shows as a 13% increase. Total property crime, we're down 10%, which is about 50-ish property crime issues. So we're moving in the right direction as it relates to our violent crime and also our property crime. Non-fatal shootings, we have 31 year to date compared to 39 last year this time. And then our carjackings are down as well. So what are we doing? What are we doing different compared to what we were doing last year? So we have multiple deployments. So last year, when I was looking at crime, I was looking at it in a way where I was focused on our micro hotspots, but then also focused on a few other issues. So say for instance, if we had a micro hotspot, and that micro hotspot information, that data is pulled from, it's basically temporal analysis. So when we have multiple shootings, shots fired calls, etc., that's the data that we gauge and we also deploy our officers out for that. So what I did last year, we were focused in, let's say for instance, the Amana neighborhood. Okay, so we have a lot of officers that are either walking or riding their bikes or patrolling the Amana neighborhood. And then what I would see is that we would have a decrease in crime in those areas, but it would be an uptick in the areas where we were not in. And so it's always just managing where those issues are. So a lot of the issues that we were beginning to see started to creep up in the Harambe neighborhood. And so right now what we actually have 6 different micro hotspots, and we deploy based upon temporal analysis. And of course I can't tell you guys what that is because I don't want y'all to be like, hey, the police ain't gonna be out here today. Let's go do something, right? But so we're doing good. And then it's also, you guys are giving us information and calling us. So we cannot be where we are without your help. Now I want to be honest too, the weather is not that good either, okay? So we are working also with some of the neighborhoods, some of also like situations such as Barada properties in our garden homes area. We're also working with the housing authority, some of those areas, having officers walk and patrol those apartment complexes and try to keep down some of the mess before it gets too hot, just so we can have a presence. And also just so that the residents know that we're there. So we're doing a lot of work. We wouldn't be where we are without our community partners. We also work with the Office of Safety and Wellness. Am I getting that right? Office of, used to be OVP. Okay, also we work with 414 Life. We also just had a pop-up at Palmer's in Chambers this past Saturday where we and a variety of community groups were together just providing resources to members. Okay? So any questions? Because I know we late. Yes.
So this side is, that's all of 23, and it's up till the end of March of 24.
Yes.
So, okay, my question is, that we have homicide over there, we only have 2, but there's 4 over there.
So this is comparison for February and March. So in March, we had 1 homicide, and in February, in February we had 1 homicide, and in March we had 1 homicide. But we had 2 homicides in January.
Oh, I see that. January.
Yes. Yeah. Anybody else have any questions? Yes. Say one more time.
What are some of the average ages for some of these crimes?
So it really depends. So say for instance, we have an aggravated assault. That's a variety of issues. That could be where we have domestic violence that's thrown into there. And we know that domestic violence, you have to be at least 18 or older for the crime to occur. Sexual assaults and rapes, it really depends. There is no real age limit, and there is nothing to say that a person is not committing a crime at a young age. So it really depends.
Is there any trend to the average person that's picked up for any crime?
So and honestly, I can't even say with the carjacking. Now before we were having a lot of carjackings and there was a lot of youth involved. But over time that has changed. We are arresting adults for the carjacking. When I say adults, like 24, 25, and even older. So I can't really say that there's a trend. The non-fatal shootings, there was an increase with our younger individuals because of the gangs that were out there, or the gangs that are out there. These younger gangs, not like the gangs from back, like the Vice Lords and the Gangs of Disciples and all of that. These are just different generation gangs. And so when we have non-fatal shootings, some of those individuals are involved in beef and they're shooting at one another, or they're shooting each other's houses up, or their mother's houses up, etc. But we can't pin, I mean, I can't say that all of the non-fatal shootings are related to gang activity or youth activity. What I can do, so for 2023, what I believe that I can do, I can reach out to the entity that provides us our data and look at our carjackings, non-fatal shootings specifically, and find out for those that have been cleared by arrest, what those ages are, and I can maybe get that for you. Yes.
It was kind of surprising that the route we installed and the total was down, because I think with the warmer weather we had this winter, that there would be more incidents, because there's more people out. Ever look at that and analyze that?
So it really, honestly, so I guess it depends, because some people will say it's not that warm and some people will say it is. And I would say that, in my opinion, that it is not that warm. So, and I do believe, and also us having those winter storms that we've had have kept people, in the house. But I do believe that once things pick up a little bit with the weather, once we have some more sunshine, that some of this will increase because more people will be out, more suspects will be out looking for people to victimize. Any other questions? All right, so you all have a lot of information in your handouts. If you have any questions about any of that information, please reach out to our CPU team so that we can clarify whatever questions you may have. And I do know that there is some information that's also broken up by your automatic districts as well. District 1, 3, 6, 7, and 15, which District 5 services. So all that information is in your handouts. You guys can have any more questions?
Do we have a date for National Night Out yet?
Is it the 14th of
August 14th, yes. ma'am.
August 14th.
Yes, ma'am.
And we're having, is that gonna be a movie park this year?
That is gonna be a movie park, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so tell your family and your friends.
I just need to put it on for work.
Okay.
Beat the beats.
Beat the
You know,
beat.
beat the beats, the beats.
Oh, yeah.
Towards the end of August, they have that.
Bring your watch, your, tennis,
And then
tennis,
we
like,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, what did you say it's gonna be next July?
24th from Burleigh at, Moody Park, COA. August 14th.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I know a couple districts have already contacted us to start recruiting community takers, so. I'm just I'm back at work now, so.
Okay. All right. Well, you all have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.